Welcome to another IoT Central podcast episode, where IoT professionals share their stories, insights, and expertise. IoT Central is the leading global community for professionals advancing the Internet of Things. Our community is free to join at iotcentral.io. Let's get right to it.
Hello, my name is Bill Dykas, Telit IoT product manager for our IoT platform, and welcome to another IoT Central podcast. Today, Grace Lancaster and I are going to be talking about how she's implemented a solution with their products utilizing Telit DeviceWise. Let me give you a little background on Telit and our IoT products. We represent a full range of industrial IoT products and services, everything from cellular modules that enable you to make your product wireless, and also offering connectivity plans on a worldwide basis that enable you to buy data plans and enable your products to be connected to the worldwide cellular network. And then the area that I'm responsible for is the Telit IoT software platform. It's a range of edge and cloud systems that help you manage your IoT system. For us, IoT system represents everything from not just device management and device connection, but all the way up to security and enterprise integration. So just to be real specific, we deal with the device connection, the data collection, its extraction. Sometimes this falls underneath the category of data orchestration, which includes collection, extraction, transformation, and then it may include analysis along the way. And then we have special techniques for integrating and loading them into the next-gen enterprise systems, whether that be the traditional enterprise middleware or the next-gen cloud systems from the major providers who are building the business systems that are leveraging all of the industrial IoT data. So that's Telit and our Telit IoT platform. Let me turn it over to Grace so that she can introduce herself and give us a little background on her Link system.
Hi, I'm Grace Lancaster, and I've been with Lantech for the past year and some change, working specifically on a development team for Link, which is our IoT solution for all of our stretch wrapping equipment and soon to be case erecting equipment as well. So to give a bit of context about what we do at Lantech, and then I'll frame what we're doing in the Link development team. Lantech is a secondary packaging manufacturing company, and the best way to describe what we do is if you're inside of a Costco and you see those huge cubes of product on the top shelf that are wrapped really tightly in plastic film, the manufacturing equipment that wraps those loads are what Lantech produces. So lots and lots of products go through our equipment, everything from paper towels to snacks to personal care items. So a lot of the world's goods are passed through a Lantech stretch wrapper on their way to a consumer. And so what we're doing on the Link development team is trying to make our products and services more data-driven. So things like, was there a film break that occurred? How long has the machine been wrapping loads? Has the machine been down for a period of time? And being able to service our machines more proactively so that customers don't experience downtime. And a lot of these trends are happening in the manufacturing space, and so we're trying to get on the train sooner rather than later so that we can automate and reduce our service costs and use data to also improve our product development cycle and make our machines even better in the future.
Very good. And so how do you use the Telit DeviceWise products today? Can you talk a little bit about the integration that you've done, and then we can sort of talk about like how it addresses the the data orchestration and the systems management that you're doing.
Sure. So as it stands, our machines have a lot of data already. So the PLC that runs the heart of the machine connects to our HMI, the human machine interface. And there's already data that's there. It's just all localized in the system, and you have to be standing at the machine to see things like throughput or productivity or when was the last film break and so forth. So that was kind of our baseline, was we have this data that's in the HMI. Some of it's stored at a regular cadence, some of it isn't stored. And so there were kind of a series of issues. One was some data isn't being collected, some data isn't being saved, some data is just simply not available outside of the HMI. And so with DeviceWise, what we did was we took all of this data that we had in the PLC and we built triggers for it, and we flowed it through to the internet, through to our database, and then eventually to the internet. What that did for us was allowed us to see everything that used to be just in the HMI in a space where it was saved, it was organized. We could do some cleaning of it because in some cases the data points didn't make sense. And we used DeviceWise to really just organize and label everything correctly and understand, how all of these different pieces of data fit together to determine things like, is downtime occurring? Is downtime going to occur? What is the performance of this wrapper and what's causing maybe some problems with the performance of this wrapper? And so ultimately, I guess the story is a little less exciting in that the data, a lot of it was already there. It's just that you had to be standing at the machine in order to view it. And in most cases, it's an operator that's either, a high turnover role. So they are there for a couple of weeks and then there's a new operator. And so there wasn't the right person standing at the machine to look at the data. Whereas if you can bring it to the internet and allow someone in a management position, for example, at their desk to see what's going on in the manufacturing facility, that's very powerful. Over time, they can look at what happened during this 6-week cycle and then this 1 month period, and why am I always having downtime between 4 and 6 p.m. and so forth. So I think as much as it's a simple statement, moving from the human machine interface at the machine to the internet, which means it's accessible anytime, any place, is very, 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 very powerful in terms of the action that both customers and Lantech can take around the data that we've gathered.
That sounds really exciting. When you were talking about it, I was thinking, okay, there are little islands out in a sea of data that weren't easily, as you said, weren't easily accessible. They were powerful machines doing their job and providing value to their customers. But at the same time, in all industrial environments, you're looking to, optimize, improve performance, and look at ways to make better decisions about what is happening with the machine. Or, for example, make sure that the machine, you're doing product lifecycle management from a machine builder perspective, but you're also trying to provide value to your customers to make sure that their machine is doing what it's supposed to be doing and that they can access the data and optimize and learn more about what's actually happening at a moment's notice. So you're not just collecting new data, but you're using existing data in new ways to increase the value to your customers and to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think I should also add that from a lot of our field experience, we have identified quite a few issues that lead to poor wrap quality or damaged loads or poor optimization of the use of the machine. And a lot of those problems are most easily solved through data. So a good example of that is wrap profile management. We have wrap profiles established on our machines that say, okay, please tell us what your load is, some things about your load. Is it paper towels? Is it high? Is it wide? Is it irregular? And based on those parameters, the wrap profile is going to give it a certain amount of containment force, which is the hug on the load. It's going to wrap it in a certain recipe, so to speak, to make sure that the wrap matches what it is that is on the load. And in a lot of cases, these profiles will deteriorate over time because an operator might experience film breaks and they might adjust the settings manually to make sure that it doesn't continue to break. And so over time, throughout the day, these wrap profile settings might deteriorate so much that you're sending a load out the door that is going to get into a truck and all of the product is going to fall off and become damaged, which is the last thing that anyone wants. So we thought about this issue, and there's a lot of challenges there because the operator is the one responsible for wrapping the load, and yet there isn't oversight from a management perspective to say, like, these settings have been ratcheted down or changed in one direction throughout the day. And if we could just step in, and if someone just knew that those settings were changing in that moment and reversed them or something, we could prevent, one load from going out the door that's going to be damaged. What's so powerful about this data solution is we actually can do that. We can see, this data has changed. This parameter on the wrap profile has been changed by the operator, either, revert it back to the old version or acknowledge that it's been changed and send someone down there, or even if you just have an understanding of what's going on so you can track down where the damage came from. So things like that, which I'm sure a lot of people who have IoT on their mind or are in the process of building IoT can relate to, is those kind of, real-time changes that you can put your finger on in the moment and prevent problems that can be very big in magnitude from happening.
It sounds like there's a real science to setting up these machines properly and having them wrap the products in a proper way. And because you used a couple of examples, you talked about paper towels, or it could be a harder product. And so how you wrap each one of those probably has a distinctly different formula of how you do it. And they may go out the door properly, but you can at least now understand those settings and correct for them if they fall apart somewhere in the truck and aren't wrapped properly, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's a great. It actually reminds me of an analogy that I like to use a lot, which is a blood draw. Like, you might look at a human being in the street and you think that they look perfectly healthy from the outside, and you wouldn't know that they have high cholesterol or possibly some other chronic illness that you could discover with a blood draw because it's insidious. You can't see it with your eye. And the same is true for a beautifully packaged load that looks shiny when it goes out the door. And yet it gets on a truck and the containment force is incorrect, or there's something fundamentally wrong with the way that it was wrapped, and it can be damaged during the shipment process. And really the only way that you would know is if you checked it, you had a correct rep profile, or you had data surrounding it. And the data is kind of synonymous here with the blood draw. And I think one of our biggest challenges is getting people to recognize that they have a problem. And data is maybe the only way to do that, the only credible way to do that.
It's a really interesting application of data for things that I think most people every day, as you said, don't have visibility into, but it's critical to our whole transportation system, in particular, the whole supply chain issues that we're seeing today. We don't have time for things to fall apart, and there's not enough people to go pick up the pallet that fell apart. You need it to stay together until it's ready to be pulled apart. Let me step back for something, because you used a word that I think people may or may not know. You used the word trigger development. Which is a term that we use within the DeviceWise product, and for others, it's similar to programming, but there's an aspect to both our cloud-based system and our edge logic. Triggers are the programming, or the event logic for how you deal with maybe it's data transformation, as Grace was talking about, or maybe it's making decisions about how where you're sending that data, or if there's an alarm that needs to be set based upon some threshold that was crossed, and also there's a rationalization aspect to the data. Don't send the data that doesn't need to be sent if it's the same thing over and over again. Collect it. So that's all part of that orchestration that I talked about earlier. But the trigger is part of I guess low code, no code, as opposed to traditional computer programming. It's more geared for the operator level, or the industrial engineer who's building the products for things. Can you talk to that a little bit in terms of how that's benefited you?
Sure. So I don't do too much of the logic building for our team. I do more of the design and strategy work, but I have actually done a course on how to do it, and I've built the data triggers and seen the GUI interface that makes it very easy to visualize what you're capturing and where you want the end result to go. And I would say it's been very good for our team to have. So we have a very small team. It's just myself, my manager, and give or take one or two developers who also have other IT related work on their plates. And my manager predominantly works in DeviceWise Workbench. And I don't believe he studied computer science or anything of the like, but he's very familiar with our equipment and the data points that are coming from the PLC. And so he's able to do it all through the training that he's done with you guys, as well as just figuring things out because it's an intuitive interface. So I would say it's huge. It's huge for a team that's very small, that doesn't have a lot of on-site engineering talent to pump into this project. It allows us to use our industry expertise and our product expertise and not kind of spin our wheels on some of these engineering tasks that would normally be involved with something like this.
That's great. You're rolling this out now. Where do you foresee? This is a certain type of machine they're in right now. I think you're in the
L series automatics.
L series, yes. And so, where do you foresee it going? Do you see it rolling out to other machines, or kind of trying to get it out into the hundreds or thousands of connected machines on this one product line first?
So this is the big question. I think when we went to launch this publicly, we narrowed in on L series automatics because we wanted it to be at a scale that we could handle, and we wanted to focus on a single body of data that we could complete and test. And so as we think about moving it into, I think you're referring to like all of our legacy machines, all of our other models of machines, there's other data
what
points.
Other next gen machines either.
Yeah, all of the above. So as we move into that space, it's kind of a scale strategy question in that, we don't really have huge amounts of sales of other types of equipment, or if we do, they're not as profitable necessarily, or, if we take a regional approach, we sell more in the US than we do in Europe. And so it's kind of a question of, is our development time going to be as fruitful in certain areas as it would be in others? And so we're kind of scaling it as we have demand from certain customers that's interesting, or as we have initiatives that we think are important. And right now we're kind of taking more of a narrow, long approach, I would say, in that we're staying true with sticking to L series automatic machines. And in some cases, we're going to move to case just because Europe is really excited about it. And
it's kind of a market question, not like a technical limitation, or
certainly not a technical limitation. No, it's just it's a resource question, us developing all the products and features for it. And then a market question in that, who has all of these different legacy equipment if we're going to do retrofit, and what machines do we sell the most of and in which regions.
Hey, so Grace, tell me a little bit about how your customers get access to the solution. I mean, in terms of, is it a subscription model, or is it also an add-on to the each machine, or is it built into every machine that goes out, and then depending upon the subscription? Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, that kind of commercial terms aspect of things?
Mm-hmm. So Link is a suggested option on all L series automatic quotes. So that means when you go to purchase an L series automatic machine, there's a line item option that you can opt into for Link, and it describes everything that Link does. It has some resource material on it. And when you purchase that option, then manufacturing will fit your machine with all of the hardware necessary for Link to operate. And when it ships to a customer facility and the machine is commissioned and installed, and we start to receive a data flow, then that subscription will kick in, and users at the organization can set up a login to see data from their machine on a portal that we've created from the Lantech website, there's a private portal with login. And that's a lot of what I've been focused on as a product manager and product designer is building out what all of those interfaces look like and coming up in some cases with new analysis based on data that we have that we think is relevant for folks to be able to manage their equipment better. Actually, what we're focused on next is going to be a series of sustainability metrics and analysis that we put onto the portal. So it's all really good stuff that we believe having our industry expertise as well as having the data there all in one visualized space is hopefully going to be very helpful to our customers. But yes, it's a subscription-based service. So once you've fitted your machine and you activate the subscription, then you have access to the internet-based site.
Very good. I tell you, listening to this, I'm very excited to hear how people are using Telit's software and services in these types of solutions. It's making kind of the dream, not to overemphasize or be overly dramatic, but, the idea and the promise of IoT is, your Lantech solution is what everybody has been talking about for the last few years, and to see it in reality and see it coming to fruition is really exciting to see. So thank you for taking us through that. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I guess in closing, I wanted to talk just a little bit about sustainability, both because it's important to me personally and also it's becoming very important to Lantech. And as you've probably gathered in this whole process of packaging, secondary packaging, manufacturing in general, there's a lot of energy required, there's a lot of plastics consumed, and increasingly there's government pressure, there's social pressure, there's corporations placing pressure on us and other organizations around the amount of energy that we're using and the plastics that we're using. And something that's really critical about moving forward is that we do the best that we can to mitigate how much materials that we're using and the environmental impact that we have in doing business. And so something that this product that IoT has done for us and will do for us is give us the tools that we need to make the optimization happen. So ensure that we send good product into the world and we reduce the amount of damage to the best of our ability with the least amount of material and energy consumed. And I think if I had to spread the word about IoT for one reason, it would be that I think it can have a huge impact on how we move forward with sustainability initiatives, because one of the most challenging pieces around sustainability is understanding what actually makes a difference. So something that seems intuitively the right path because it's going to save X amount of plastic or X amount of CO2 might actually not be the right move if you have really solid data to back your decision making. And so as we kind of move into our next phase of data capture and data visualizations, we're going to be very focused on our plastic imprint and being able to make moves that really make sense, that we can rationalize to our customers and to those larger national accounts who are putting pressure on us in a very intelligent and thoughtful and technical way. So I just want to leave every listener with that. The sustainability question is very big. And as much as you can have a data footprint starting yesterday to help frame those decisions is so key. And at Lantech, we're really trying to do that.
Thank you very much. Very well said. Well, thank you all for listening to the Lantech Telit IoT Central podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed this IoT Central podcast episode. Visit iotcentral.io for more insights and events. Thank you for listening.